Hello, something really huge and incredibly important has happened today, and the implications are huge. Superficially, if one doesn't give any thought to it, it might not seem that way, but they are huge. The Nord Stream 1 and Nord Stream 2 pipeline from Russia to Germany have been destroyed. Seismologists have declared that this is not an earthquake. There are two distinct explosions that were recorded. Claim that it is not natural. There's 5 different leaks. There's aerial photos of huge, enormous upwellings of natural gas. It is supposed to be millions and millions and millions of cubic liters of natural gas from the Nord Stream 1 and 2 pipeline. Basically, everybody online is trying to blame Russia. The only people that would have to gain from this actually is the United States. Biden, when asked, I think it was like earlier this year, I forget when, but I remember this, and his quote was, just asked about, well, what if Russia, goes into Ukraine? What does that do to affect the Nord Stream pipeline? And Biden's words exactly were, there won't be a Nord Stream 2 pipeline. I think I've got her name right. Her name is Victoria Nuland. She works for the White House. I forget, energy something another. And her exact words were, this is the White House mouthpiece, by the way. Her exact words were, many months ago, she said, one way or another, Nord Stream 2 will not move forward. If you think, well, there's an explosion, these are, issues underwater where these were imploded and destroyed, just a small section, we could easily fix that. That's not the case. It actually puts salt water in the entire line. It's not a mere repair. We're talking about an extremely long time, if not years, to fix. And then you have corrosion in the line. Even if you were to repair a section very quickly, you have corrosion and damage throughout the line, which is incredibly long. Do you know how long it took to build those to begin with? So Nord Stream 1 and Nord Stream 2 are destroyed. You say, well, they're destroyed in sections where they were exploded. It's like, well, technically that's true, but there's salt water in the lines. You have corrosion issues. You ask anybody, any expert on this, they'll tell you that's the case. What this does is it prevents Germany and Europe from having an agreement with the Russians. The Russians, and I'm not taking Russia's side at all. I mean, I lived in Russia for quite a long time. I get along with Russians. I get along with Ukrainians. I'm a patriotic American, whatever you think that is or is not. I love freedom. The Russians would not benefit from this. Just the opposite. That was their ace up the sleeve, if you will. So the White House themselves has specifically said that there won't be a Nord Stream 2. That's what the president said. The mouthpiece, I think her name is Victoria Nuland, her last name is Nuland, said one way or another Nord Stream 2 is not going to move forward. People are like, what do you mean by that? It's just not going to move forward. That's what they said months ago, that specific person in the White House. If the United States is responsible for this, which it seems extremely likely that they are, since they said that this would be stopped many months ago, that means that the United States, and I know wouldn't be the first time, is responsible for a super huge environmental, also economic actually, environmental disaster. That's literally right off the Richter scale of environmental, I hate to use the word because the algorithms are always listening. TERROIS, you know the word I'm looking for. Eco-terror, I'll not finish that because of the algorithms. So 5 different leaks. Seismologists claim 2 different distinct explosions. The lines are destroyed. And also, too, if it seems likely that it is the case that the United States is the one that destroyed these lines, Russia could easily retaliate by cutting the transatlantic internet cable that would actually disrupt banks. It would actually cause a global catastrophe, and a global economic catastrophe. People have no idea. People think, well, everything gets, from the United States to Europe and back and forth. It bounces off of satellites, and a certain percentage of it, a lot of it travels via these transatlantic internet lines. Those could easily be cut by the Russians, and it would wreak economic disaster. And not to sound conspiratorial, but if you wanted to do a global reset, it's like, well, all we have to do is destroy the Nord Stream 1 and 2 pipelines, and then they've now been destroyed. Wait for Russia to retaliate, non-nuclear, by the way, of course, by cutting the transatlantic internet cable, which would wreak economic havoc, the likes of which you and I have never even dreamt of. There's a lot of other things that could happen. So that's an ecological disaster, and it seems likely the United States is responsible. If they are, or they are not, obviously I don't know definitively. Russia, that's Russia's ace up the sleeve. They would not do that. Are they responsible ultimately? They could be, but it doesn't seem possible, really. But this is not an easy repair. I think a lot of people would think, well, you just repair the section. You can repair the section, but the lines are full of salt water, and corrosion happens really quickly. You got serious damage to a gas pipeline. So anyway, you look up the aerial photographs. I think they're taken via helicopter. It could be from an airline that was sent over top of the explosions, were just millions and millions and millions of cubic liters of natural gas, which is 90% methane, is just leaking out there. That's an ecological disaster, and it's pure evil. And since the White House said that they would stop Nord Stream 2, both lines have been ruined. They said they would stop it many months ago. They said, Mr. President, what will happen if Russia goes into Ukraine? What about the Nord Stream? He said, oh, there won't be a Nord Stream 2. Those are his exact words. And the other White House mouthpiece, one way or another, quote, Nord Stream 2 will not move forward. Well, they fixed that today. Somebody fixed that today on both pipelines. Tell me what you think. That's huge. It really is actually extremely huge. You might not think so, who gives a damn about a gas pipeline, between Russia and Germany. You should care.